And I don't want to call out anyone in particular because I have to say, I have been, in the very short tenure that I have had as president of Congo, incredibly inspired by a number of the NGO committees and the work that they do, and the work that you're all doing. And I'm hopeful that what we can accomplish in the coming year is to have better integration and coordination across the substantive committees because of the challenges and the complexity of the issues that we're facing today, that there are so many intersections. And I may have mentioned we are getting ready to start up an NGO committee on global health systems. And specifically for that reason, because if you can't talk about prosperity, sovereignty, without looking at health, the health of the citizenship. So these are issues that I know that the global, this NGO committee on global health systems will be looking at. But I know that many of you that are working in areas around equity, other areas around sustainability, really look at it's a very multi-sector approach. So I'm hopeful that this periodic meeting of the substantive committee chairs and vice chairs will help us to get greater cross-pollination, to be able to better share best practices, and really to discuss and escalate issues of concern that we can address collectively to be able to strengthen the work that we're doing at Congo. I am still getting introduced to many of the UN officials, and quite honestly, many of the UN officials are changing out now. There's a reorganization that's occurring, and there are new officials that are stepping into roles. Not to mention, as we're very much all aware, that there will be a new Secretary General that will begin in January of 2027. So I believe it'll be important for us to be well organized and to be able to go to the new Secretary General with our capabilities as a collective. And I've been talking to a number of individuals about what that could potentially look like. I know that we had developed a white paper on the NGO efforts to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. And in fact, thanks to one of our NGO members, I sat next to the head of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Committee, the Sustainable Development Goals Office, and had sent that report over. And it was a survey of about, I believe we captured about 60 people. Is that correct, Benjamin? Were there about 60 NGOs that were in that? And then we did that with Akari's. Akari's NGO is Pisawa. Thank you. And but that's just one step, because now where we are going now with UN80 and the Pact for the Future is really taking that next step of where to go. But I think even more importantly, if we have 500 ECOSOC accredited NGOs that are part of Congo, what impact are they making, are these NGOs making around the world? And how do we quantify that? And I think once we can get a better handle on our impact, because we are the ones that are the foot soldiers on the ground, making the work happen where many times countries and governments can't do it on their own. And yet the problem that we've had is there's been a disconnect, because from a top-down perspective, UN officials, member states that are setting up these platforms for global cooperation and multilateralism, we're not connecting effectively from the bottom up to the top down. And I think that we have to figure out what these problems are, and identify what those problems are first before we can correct them. So I just wanted to stop here. Those are my opening comments. And before we get into some of the other issues of the agenda, I'd like to open it up for comments. People can raise their hands. I do want to let you know that we do have some of the Stuff United Fund interns that are auditing this group. They are here with Stuff United Fund Learning. And I want to thank the generosity of Stuff United Fund for really sponsoring and supporting us and allowing us to have a soft launch of the Learning Institute and Civil Society Media Desk. They've been very generous in helping us to bring voice to civil society and the NGO community. And we'll be having this soft launch through the United Nations General Assembly through the end of this year. Okay, so I'll stop now. And are there any comments, concerns, questions about what I've just said and stated before we get into the actual agenda? Absolutely. I completely agree with you, John. So yeah, this is a listening session from my perspective. What do the substantive committees want to talk about? I heard from the, I'm sorry, Anita. I'm sorry, Anita, go ahead. Yes, please. Yes. I see your hand is up.
Umbrella organizations, a stronger Congo means a stronger NGO committee. So I really appreciate this timely meetings that you're convening. I also want to congratulate you on the consultation that you organized during the HLPF, which I felt was the way a consultation with civil society should be done. Under Congo's auspices, because it was informal. We heard from young people, we heard from members, we heard from committees. So, I think that's the right trajectory and right path for Congo. So I wanted to share a couple of points. One was about, I looked at the rules of Congo and the aims of the conference that is underlined in Article 2 clearly defines what Congo's purpose is. So for the NGO committee, we have a strategic plan. We align it with our bylaws, and we have a 2-year strategic plan. And I'm very curious to know, is Congo board developing something on those lines that aligns to the aims of the conference so that we don't lose track? And where do NGO committees play in this space is the most important aspect. How do we support this process? Because we are already providing facilitation, we are providing capacity building for our members to engage on the substantive issues that we are set up under. And so how does all this fit into the Congo agenda for the upcoming 4 years? The other question I have a question regarding the media desk. You talked about a soft launch. I'm very curious to know how this is going to be operationalized, who's going to be managing it, how is it going to be funding it, if there's staff involved, how it's going to be compensated, because and also who are you trying to serve? Is it for NGO committees? Because I say that at least for the NGO Committee on Financing for Development partners with NGO Committee on Migration, we have a common Zoom account. And we used that because we felt cost was too much for us to manage. So we came together to manage it. And I think there is similar arrangement with other NGO committees. So what is the Congo Media Desk all about? How does it fit into the larger discussions at the UN? What is the expertise of the people who are managing this media desk, right? Because our engagements at the UN are at a very substantive level, and we should be able to engage at a substantive level, not, macro to micro, right? And how is that expertise being defined? And then I wanted to talk about the Congo Committee reporting to the Congo board. We are expected to report regularly to the board. And it'll be helpful to have some sort of a timeline in advance so that we prepare. I know that we submit it in time for Congo board meetings, but it'll be good to know if you have a schedule. And this is when Congo committees are expected to provide reports so that we can forward that. So when you were also talking about, committees that are not functioning, it is quite evident which committees are not functioning. Committees that have not provided report to Congo on a regular basis, those are under constraint. And so it might be helpful because it's outlined in the Congo rules as to how Congo is going to approach committees that are not functioning. So if Congo can I think it is, I was trying to see the exact article that it is. I think it's Article 48 under Rules of Congo. I know that's for funding. So yeah, I think it's Article 48. It talks about committees that are not functioning. Congo is going to have a process to either support them or take them out of the Congo network of committees. Maybe that needs to be looked at seriously, right? Because we've had challenges for a long time. Article 46 talks about, according to the funds at its disposal, the board may give financial assistance to a committee. This has never been actualized. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts on that point are. And I'll stop there. I may have more points to add, but this is where I'm hoping that, you can provide some feedback on. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Anita. Those are really excellent questions. And let me first say that unfortunately, the board member from the Peak Institute that has agreed to leave the
I am available to speak if you need me to speak on the media desk.
Yeah, I would love for you to speak on the Learning Institute and the media desk. Let me just preface that before you start, Rebecca, preface that by stating that the reason for a soft launch is to get to a lot of the issues that you're talking about, Anita. A lot of this has been discussed. We had talked about it at the previous board meeting, where NGOs do need support on how to access the UN ecosystem and to provide greater support. And that's been actually a top priority that was identified in the survey results of the Congo Substantive Committee Chair survey. But that, along with amplifying the work of NGOs, that we've also heard those two issues. So, but how we operationalize all of that is still being worked out. But I wanted to just preface that was a discussion at the Congo board meeting in March in New York. but, and then Rebecca Irby had agreed to chair this, this group. So let me push it over to Rebecca, and then I'll be able to answer some of the other questions that you had. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Thank you, Peter. And Anita, I apologize. I'm in transit, so I did not hear all of your questions. So if I don't answer some of them, please ask again. I'm out of the subway and train, so I should not be losing service anymore. But the media desk and the people, I think at least the question that I heard was, what are the credentials of the people doing the media desk, and are they people who are able to be in substantive meetings? So yes, the people running this Hubcast International, which you can look into, is a media organization that has through our partners, over 40 years of experience working with the United Nations and very, very large worldwide events, such as Live Aid, which happened in the 80s, Farm Aid, which happened in the 2000s, the International Peace Bridge, which was a initiative between US and Russia, actually the USSR at the time, when they broadcast from the International Space Station. And these are just a few of the small events that this team broadcasts. If anyone is familiar with Public Citizen, which is a very large social good concert platform, we are also the broadcasters of that. And we have been broadcasting a number of events that Peak has been involved in over the last 10 years. On the International Day of Peace last year, our campaign got 5 million views and had peace trending for the first time on the International Day of Peace. And that is where we got a lot of the notoriety for, I would say, this decade of the peace work and broadcasts that are done under this group and under this name. If someone could help me with some other questions that were posed, I would be very happy to answer.
Rebecca, what Anita was asking too is, how will the Learning Institute and Civil Society Media Desk serve the NGOs, in particular the substantive committees?
Thank you. Yes. So what we have heard is that the media desk for the UN is only focusing on countries and member states. And we are seeing the diminished voice of civil society. And when asking people what they need to help their voice be heard and more sustainable, this understanding that nothing is ever recorded. A lot of organizations spend most of their budget to come to the United Nations, and then they walk away with a group picture. So we wanted to provide services that will help bring people together, create coalitions, do training on media support. So how do we do storytelling? And then also provide the packages so that folks have their entire session recorded and broken down into segments for social media, because that's our world is moving to a hybrid space where being online, our online presence is critically important. So helping NGOs move from a fully physical world to being a digital native, what that looks like through media, and then also through training, and just being that support space for NGOs. As Peter said, many changes are coming down the line, and Co-NGO has such a huge opportunity to be the space where NGOs come for information, and the substantive committees themselves can be the beacon and the light that shows other NGOs and other organizations how important collaboration, multilateralism is, and what it looks like to do it through Co-NGO as support. The last thing I will say is that Peter and I went and spoke with the Department of Global Communications they are very excited to partner with us and create this institute and learning space. They're already doing a number of these events, so they're very much looking forward to working with us to offer that to more and more NGOs worldwide.
Thank you. And I do want to, and I see that Jillian's got a hand up, but before I call on Jillian, let me just say that Anita, I hear what you're saying, that we have to be clear about when committees should report. It says in the rules of Congo that committees shall report regularly to the board. What does that mean? And there needs to be clarity to that. I do think that you're right. We're here to, I see Congo, to your point, Anita, is to help support the work of the NGO committees, as well as to help support NGOs. And that's when we get to the survey, and I think everybody has seen the survey questions, you'll see what type of support that that NGOs are looking for. But to your other point about a strategic plan, no, we did not talk about a strategic plan at the March meeting. We will be meeting in Vienna, and I will definitely have that on the agenda. To be quite honest, and again, a lot of the way Congo was run, and all of you may know, there was a tremendous support from the United Methodist Church and Levi Bautista's organization. Right now, that same situation is reoccurring again, where my organization is taking on a lot of that support. That is not the way we should be running Congo. We need to ultimately be able to collect dues. We have right now a total of, and Cyril can correct me, and we don't have our treasurer on here, Liz, but right now we have about $33,000 in our account. That will not allow for us to be sustainable over time. We are trying to improve dues collection, but even dues at $350 a person, I think that we need to look at a different dues structure. I think that NGOs from high-income countries that are are at a higher operating budget could pay a little bit more, and those from low-income countries that don't have those operating budgets shouldn't have to pay as much. And that's something that's being discussed, but I know it's very controversial. Because that's the whole, there are a lot of opinions here. In trying to, I really feel as if to do the best job as president and taking over from somebody that was president for 11, 12 years is to really listen before acting. Though I did want to act, and that's one of the reasons why we started up a Congo advisory circle of friends to be, advised by experts. And I see that we've got Alejandro on here, who co-chairs that circle of friends with Levi Bautista. We are, and then wanting to start up this Learning Institute and Civil Society Media Desk as a test. And then we started out a newsletter. But, I'm not saying that, all of these things need to, we need to do better. Now, as far as giving funding support to I think that was one of your other questions, Anita, to give funding support back to the NGO substantive committees and NGOs. That's a challenge right now because we don't have money, and we should figure that out. I want to be very clear with people that I do not, if I'm traveling on behalf of Congo, it's covered through my organization or out of my own personal pocket.
Peter, one final thing, and I'm sorry to interject. I don't see how to raise my hand, and I'm about to get on the bus.
Okay.
But I wanted to also mention the idea that we had of connecting media services to membership dues. So the way that would look is it comes already a part of your membership. Our a training course and a media package. So the way that that would look for committees would be if you're having a side event at the UN or one of the side event locations, the media team would be able to come and record or broadcast your event, and that would be covered in your membership fee. So every member is getting services from the media desk as well as the Institute for Training.
Thank you for that, Rebecca. But again, Anita, I think you raised some really great points, and I think that I know we don't have the time today to really go through a lot of these things in detail, but we have to get better organized. I absolutely agree. We have to have a strategic plan so that the NGO substantive committees are clear about the direction. And from the survey results, what I'm seeing here is that there needs to be better access to UN decision-making processes. There needs to be better consultation opportunities with UN entities, improved communication with UN bodies, and then obviously this resource constraint and limiting participation. All of those need to be corrected. Jillian, I know that you had your hand up, and I think you might have put your hand down. I'd like to call on you.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks very much for organizing this meeting and for highlighting the importance of our engagement with the UN. My hand is up because I second Anita's questions. I am looking to see a strategic plan, and simply because I appreciate process, and we seem to be jumping the gun here by putting out things without having a plan or an agreed plan. So I definitely second that from Anita. In terms of the media desk, I appreciate Rebecca. Thank you for sharing, because it seems to be to me personally, it was really confusing why we needed this, why it needs to be monetized, because most functioning NGO committees already have this. And so then I'm confused why we're duplicating efforts, A, and B is if there is a partnership with DGC, then it would be helpful if NGO committees knew about it, because primarily our focus is what is the engagement level with the UN and how is it improving, and I'm not seeing that yet. So I would appreciate if we could focus on those bits. As comes to monetizing, my understanding is we're all NGOs and we're all nonprofits. So I'm really unsure why we're having this conversation about monetizing, and it would be helpful if we have clarity on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. No, and I completely agree. And my strategy was, when I first got in here, is obviously first we have to listen. But I also wanted to say we want to be responsive, and we want to, we're putting out, is the newsletter the best? No. We're testing out, as I said, it's a soft launch of the Learning Institute and the media desk. If it's not what's the right thing, then let's revisit it. Congo is all of us. It's not the president, it's not the officers, it's not the board, it's all of us. And how do we better organize it? It gets back to what Anita's saying too. How do we help to, if the substantive committees aren't even clear about when to report to the board and how we connect everybody together, that is a responsibility as a coordinator, as a convener, that we have to get better at those things. So, and that's the importance of having this. And I really want to stress the importance of holding these chair and co-chair substantive committee, this meeting every other month, to really get the needle moving forward. I will definitely admit that it has been slow to come. Administratively, just getting the website, the member dues systems, the infrastructure all pulled together. As you just said, Jillian, we all run NGOs. I run a big one. I have 250 staff. I know what it's like, to have to organize and to deliver. Each one of us have to do that. That's what we have to get to. We have to get to a better, well-run Congo, to better well support the NGO substantive committees. I've been looking at the rules, and if I am not seeing if there's inaction or there are challenges. I just say, you're right, Anita, in section 48, where a substantive committee has ceased effective functioning or is in breach of rules of the conference, the board shall have authority to dissolve such a committee. I think that there might be some committees that are not functioning the proper way, but maybe there's a way of helping to re-engage them and reactivate them and re-energize them. I mean, very much so to your points about Congo. How do we re-energize, reactivate, and re-engage in a digital economy? I think every one of us as NGOs have to look at new ways of engagement with our members, with our customers, with various partners and collaborators that we have, because it's a new day, it's a new age, and I think that's where we're having to evolve and think about this. But I agree with you, Anita and Jillian, to establish a strategic plan for the substantive committees to be involved in the strategic planning process will be important. So any other comments? I think I've covered the first couple of agenda items. I did a welcome. I did the results of the survey. I can bring back up the discussion that we had at the last meeting around steps required for the Congo Council of NGO Substantive Committee Chairs to fulfill the Congo General Assembly mandate to serve as a platform, and to begin to look at a representation on the on the Congo board. At the last meeting, I heard a lot of people say, push back, that it's not about structure as much as it is about consistent delivery and consistent communication. So, Cyril, I would like to turn it over to you to make your commentary on what's just been transpired.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. I'm very happy to hear with everything I've heard thus far. And in fact, the discussion we've had today does fulfill the first requirement of the Congo General Assembly resolution. The second requirement of the resolution is to elect 3 people to attend as observers at the board. That was deferred by the first meeting to today, so that has to be done. Let me respond to a particular point on the reporting. There are reporting guidelines that have been circulated many times to all standing committees. There are 5 points on them, and the board standing committee on substantive committees is going to ask for these 5 reporting points to be sent to us by September, so that we can report to the board in October. That would be simply an information item. I think what are we now? We're already about an hour into the meeting. We need to hear from people as to whether they wish today to elect these 3 representatives as observers at the board, and if so, then proceed to do it. May I make one last comment before that discussion takes place? It is entirely true that a number of our substantive committees are outstandingly competent in working with the parts of the UN system that their mandate relates to. Remember that we're all called substantive committees because the Congo rules say the purpose is to discuss the substantive issues on the UN agenda. However, at least 15 of the substantive committees that are on paper have not met this year, some of them not last year, and some of them not for several years. And that's one of the issues that the board in March said it would want to discuss that in October to see what can be done to get round that hurdle.
Well, I would personally be willing to work with maybe one or two of the high-performing best practice NGO substantive committees to come with me to consult on those that are not operating properly if they have time. We're here, we need to be helpful. And Cyril, if you have the 5 points that are required of the substantive committees to report by September, would it be possible for us to share that on the screen so that everybody can see it? I mean, September is going to be coming. We're already going to be in August. So it's only going to give people a couple of months to have this. And I know that the Congo board meeting is October 2nd in Vienna. And I want to make sure that, people have ample time to be able to look at, what the requirements are for reporting. I think that was one of the concerns that we had heard earlier. And it would be good for people to see what is expected. And again, I would say too, is the reporting, the importance of that reporting. And I think, really trying to move Congo and substantive committees to greater impact is going to be important. And like, I will say what Cyril just said about the, we have very highly impactful, effective substantive committee. We really do. And that's incredible. But, how do we help to raise all boats in the organization? And how do we help to continue to support those highly functioning substantive committees? And that should be a centerpiece to the strategic planning process. So again, it's not in what we say, it's in what we do. And that's, trying to get through the administrative tasks of the organization to be able to get to effectiveness and impact is where I think we're at right now. And I'm not quite yet into a year as the new president, and I can't say that I'll be new anymore. But this year has been a lot of learning and a lot of listening, and I think that too. It's not only about how effective the substantive committees are. I think that we have a requirement to say how effective is the board, and are our board members effective, and are they all helping to support the effectiveness of our substantive committees and doing the work of Congo. So Cyril, do you have that? Do you have the 5 points for the report?
Well, I just have them on paper, but it was attached to the agenda. It was attached to the convocation. The 4 main points are the up-to-date rules and membership of the committee, the up-to-date officers and their term of office, the activities that have been held in the past year or whatever the period may be, programs, seminars, briefings, publications, advocacy, and an annual financial report. And then we have a 5th point. Do you have any other issues relating to the substantive, any other questions relating to the substantive issues of the UN? We will set, this is going to be sent out again by the board standing committee, probably in the next week, with the request for a response with 5 or so weeks later.
Great, thank you.
William Smith has his hand up.
Yes, just a very quick question. I think the NGO Committee on Aging in New York submitted a report, but I don't recall seeing a response from Congo as to the thoroughness of the report. I think it covered all of the points that Cyril has just raised, but I think that's an example of the two-way communication. Yes. We submit the report, is it okay or isn't it? Thank you.
Excellent point. It is two-way, William. I absolutely agree. And again, that that's something that we have to work on.
Thank you, Bill. We'll look into that. I think an acknowledgement was sent, but I'll look into it.
The other issue is then if then from hearing from this group, and I want to put this out there. So if we do not get reports from substantive committees, is this when we start to activate Congo Rule number 48 and begin to look at dismantling those substantive committees? And the other question that I want to say too is if we only have a small percentage of Congo members that are sending in their dues, do we take those other members off of the Congo website? These are questions that I don't think it's fair for a top-down approach. I mean, I think that there's a lot of change that's happening. And I'm a big believer that we need to support each other. And I don't want to be negative or punitive, because I don't think that that's a positive, hopeful way of transforming Congo. But I also do hear, I'll repeat what Jillian said, you know, to be much more attuned to procedural matters and making sure that we are following the procedures properly and that there's clarity of procedure. Comments on what I just said from anyone?
Just recall, Peter, that the board did agree to consider this issue at its October meeting. So it's on the agenda.
Okay.
Peter, Bill Smith again. I really think that this discussion of which members stay, which ones go, et cetera, those that should be kicked out, is really a board discussion with you and the board,
Okay.
not with individual members or leaders like this. It just gets too far afield.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's entirely accurate, Bill. Only the board can discuss, only the board can decide on that.
Okay.
Peter, well, there's still time. Do we want to see if what we're meeting today is the Council of Substantive Committee Chairs as set up by the Assembly. Does the Council wish to nominate 3 persons as observers to the next Congo Board meeting? And the suggestion, of course, is that it be 1 from each centre.
Jan Loman has his hand up. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that it's very clear that there was a deep concern about the relevance of having any so-called representatives at the board meeting when it is possible for each of the Congo members to participate as observers at the Congo board meeting. And it's difficult to see what kind of improvement or that it would be if we would elect 3 so-called representatives. What would they represent? Actually, we cannot see that. And furthermore, we have here only 2 committees from Geneva here, and
3.
I don't think
3.
that. Excuse me.
There are 3.
Well, 3, but still, I don't agree with electing anybody from Geneva for this council.
Well, you are correct, John. We will open up the board meeting for any observers that would like to be there. We'll make sure that we get the meeting information out in ample time for people to schedule, and they could do that virtually or come into Vienna for that. Rebecca Irby, you have your hand up?
I just had a question, a point of clarification. Was the the point of these representatives to report back to the council and be thinking of substantive committees and how we engage with the UN and some of the points that were brought up earlier. I'm trying to understand what the differentiation is and why substantive committees would not want representation for committee work. We're talking about NGOs being represented at the board meeting, but you're going to be entering with a different frame of mind when you enter as an NGO with your own organization versus your substantive committee or all of the substantive committees as a whole. So I just would love some clarification as to what the thinking was, and maybe that clarification will help some of the members feel more excited about participating.
Cyril, could you answer that
Yes,
question?
of course. We're only able here to implement the General Assembly decision. And it says 3 observers to represent the interests of NGO substantive committees, 3 observers at the Congo board, elected from among the members of the council. So Rebecca, I think, is entirely right. This is representing all the interests, not of any one committee, but of the collectivity that this council now constitutes. It is set up by the Assembly, and it would need a decision not to act in order not to implement the Assembly resolution.
Did that answer your question, Rebecca?
Yes, thank you.
Anita Thomas has her hand up.
Yes, so I wanted to ask, there needs to be a little bit more clarity. I really agree with Jan on what he shared, because that was the concern that was raised at the last meeting as to how is these 3 representatives different from regular Congo members. Every committee member is also invited to Congo board meetings when it comes, and then they present. So what is the purpose of this representation? Because it cannot happen. I think I'm very happy, Peter, that you said that you're going to convene these regular meetings with NGO committee chairs. The role of the 3 representatives should not be to facilitate such meetings. It should be in some ways to provide intel to Congo. In some ways, I'm thinking, what is the purpose of this? There is that particular, I guess 3 or 4 bullets that came out of the General Assembly doesn't provide clarity on what the role of this council is, the 3 representatives, right? And so there needs to be a bit more clarity. Now, there are some board members who are also committee chairs. And so there needs to be a decision as to what role they are playing on the board at that point. If it's going to be 3 representatives coming from the NGO committee chairs, then they need to come in that capacity alone, not as board members already serving. Again, as an observer, doesn't add any value to this role, because we're just sitting there without having voting rights. There needs to be somewhere, there needs to be a distinction between what this council is going to sort of operationalize in some way, what the role of the council is.
So procedurally, Cyril, so if this was a resolution approved at the General Assembly on behalf of the entire membership, procedurally, how does that get clarified? Who is responsible, who represents the General Assembly other than the members at large, to be able to give greater clarity to this resolution that was passed at the General Assembly?
Well, the procedure would be simple in 2 opposite directions. One, to proceed to elect 3 persons as observers as required by the Assembly, or to defer that until a later meeting of the Council in order to learn more what the potentialities are. The mandate of the Council is to serve as a platform for consultation collaboration and cooperation among the substantive committee chairs. And I would think it perfectly in order for the proposal to defer once more to be acted on. Then we gain more experience, and we'll see also with those committees that are not active, which I would remind you is a rather large number. And that's going to be looked at in October. Jan Lund has had his hand up.
Okay, yes, I support this proposal to defer this matter of election. I think that is the best way to handle it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does everybody, can we, Jillian, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I feel bad that I'm speaking again because I really do want to hear from the rest. So with request and to the group, I speak again to say this was an agenda item at the last meeting. We brought up our concerns. We seem to be on auto repeat. To me, it's about making a decision and moving on. We're asking repeatedly for clarity on these roles because observer status is really moot. We can do observer status anyway. What is the purpose of this outside of observer status? And then we can move on. Otherwise, we're just kicking the can down the road.
Jillian, I'm going to tell you how I feel. I completely agree. But I was told, because I don't follow the rules, that I'm not following the rules, that if the General Assembly stated that we had to do this, then we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here. I say, let's continue to meet as substantive committee chairs and vice chairs every other month to have real discussions. I think this is a moot point. I agree with you. It is a moot point. I would say, let's not talk about it. Let's defer it indefinitely, and we can defer it to the next General Assembly. But I'm sure I'll get pushback from somebody else. I think that this is the wrong thing to look at. I think that we have to look at more relevant issues around collaboration and better coordination. That's and getting access into the United Nations. That's what I'm hearing from people. That's what I'd like to focus on, not debating whether or not we have representatives, because anybody can be represented at the board meeting. I completely agree with that. So that's my position on this. Cyril, you're the first vice president. If you disagree with that, then, but I say let's move on.
I'm entirely in agreement with that. We have a motion on the table to defer this item, and I suggest we go ahead.
I'll second that.
Okay. So does everybody here, would you like to, for those that, why don't I say it this way? For those that oppose this motion to defer to the next General Assembly, this issue of representation of a council of substantive committees to be part of the board, we are deferring it to the next General Assembly that will be happening in 4 years or 3 years from now. But if you disagree with us deferring, please raise your hand. If you disagree with the deferment. Jillian,
I disagree with deferment because what we're asking for is clarity on role more than observer. So my point of kicking the can down the road is because we're not getting, at least I am unclear why this is happening. So if we get more clarity, we can move forward. What is one going to do with this?
Okay. And I was asking, and Jillian, what I was asking for is who provides that clarity? Who from the General Assembly should be providing that clarity? And that's what I was asking Cyril.
Well, I would make an attempt to do that in my role as chair of the Resolutions Committee.
Okay.
However, I saw many hands going up
Yeah, so
the
I see
screen.
Anita's hand is up.
Yeah.
And I think Kimberly's hand was up.
Yes,
Anita,
I wanted to second what Jillian said. We are asking for more clarity because it came out of the General Assembly, and so it has to be acted on, right? And
okay,
there was a reason why it was asked, and so maybe more clarity is needed on who put it forth. And it's the responsibility of the board, in my opinion, to come up with that clarity.
okay.
Right. And in consult, I mean, Cyril is also on the board. So as a collective, come back to this, this group with some clarity so that we can discuss it
Okay,
with some
so
understanding.
we'll get, so Cyril, what I'm hearing is that the maker of the resolution and the intent of the resolution and have that documented, and we can even get that out before the next substantive committee meeting. Kimberly, I saw your hand was up.
Yes, hi, Peter. I think I'm also in alignment with my colleagues Anita and Jillian in regards to the clarity issue. I think, again, I don't think it needs to be deferred as long as there's a little bit of clarity in the monetization and the process and just the whole 9 yards. I think we can move forward as long as that's, and also just to say, hello, and also to introduce myself as the new chair of the NGO Committee on Migration. So happy to be here, and thank you for the space to answer the question. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so we've got about 25 more minutes left. So we will bring back to the board, to this group, the intention, the maker of the resolution, and give greater clarity to that. Thank you for that. I would like to now open this up. Cyril, are there other things that you would like to talk about? Because if I'm looking at the agenda, I believe we've pretty much covered everything and we're on other business right now.
Well, I think we need a little bit more information on the results of the survey, which you touched on in your opening remarks. One of the things that I noted, if you agree to put this or renew that item, one of the things that I noticed in the few replies to the survey from the total 35 substantive committees, there were not very many replies, is that a number of people asked Congo for assistance with contacting the relevant UN agency or secretariat or persons in their field. And you will recall that my own response to that was, that's exactly the job of every chair of each substantive committee. There's no way that the volunteers in running Congo can contact 35 different UN agencies to introduce the existence of the substantive committees. That is basically the job of the officers of the substantive committee, who have to get to know the people in the UN and maintain contact with them. Every time a new chair is elected, he or she should be briefed by the outgoing chair as to who the contacts in the relevant UN agency are, relevant secretariat, department, or whatever it may be. I've often noticed over the years that there's somewhat of a lack of transmittal of or on-forwarding of information from one set of officers to the next. And that can only be remedied within the standing committee, within the substantive committee itself. Just to finish off the previous item, I will look into the records of the General Assembly and provide a brief so that there's a factual basis for that discussion. That's just to close off that issue so that it doesn't hang around.
Well, thank you for closing off that other one, Cyril, and providing a report back to this group around the intention of the resolution that was passed at the General Assembly. But I do want to get to the issue that you just raised. And there seems to be, I'm hearing a disconnect on my part. I think substantive committees are asking for assistance. They see the Congo board and the Congo officers as assistant to helping give them access to United Nation officials. I'd like to open that up and hear from different people. You know, Kimberly, you just introduced yourself as the new chair of the NGO Committee on Migration. What's that been like? And I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot. I'm just trying to get to if we don't know what the problem is, we can't solve the problem. So I'm not quite sure on how we fix the problem if NGO substantive committees are asking us to provide access and we're saying that's your job, then I feel like we're not getting to the root of the problem.
Thank you, Peter. To be honest, my first official day will be on Monday. That'll be the first time that we're having the meeting with the old executive and the new executive, and we do kind of a summer retreat where we have an all-day discussion on how things have worked, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and then moving forward. There's been a lot of different
That's perfect.
spaces that we needed to go through in regards to migration. So now it's a new moment, I think, at the UN. So we're just trying to see how best to tackle it. And again, this is combining both the new and the past executive committees, kind of almost like a handover document, a handover process.
That's perfect. That's what should happen.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, thanks for letting us know that. And, you know, again, I'm just trying to get some understanding of what's what's happening. Alejandro, we haven't heard from you, and
Yes.
you're doing some incredible work with your aging committee in Geneva. You know, we heard from Bill in New York. And do you have any commentary that you'd like to bring up about all
Yes, well, thank you, Peter. No, indeed, I did perceive this kind of request for help as responding to a problem, but possibly responding to two things, to an enhancement, to an added value added that Congo might have to all the NGO committees, and also kind of preparing for the big shifts that will take place as soon as we'll have a new Secretary General. So to me, I have contacts, and I have made contacts, and I think the previous president of my NGO, she was quite generous, and she transferred to me many of her own contacts. So it really worked. But it would help enormously if the president of Congo would have a meeting, I don't know, with the ILO Director General, and let him know that we are in this new phase, that there's a new president and there's new to think, and we're working together there, that he knows at the top level that there are NGO committees, and actually that we are already working with his staff, so that it's not only just, which is important, just the bottom up support that we're getting, but top down, the big boss knows that Congo is there, that Congo has a power, a personality, and an influence. So I think that would help. That would help. And that would also prepare us if I think the process is different in every UN agency. But as soon as we'll have a new Secretary General, probably we have new appointments everywhere, everywhere. Some might come from inside the house and some might not. Some might know Congo, some might not have even heard about Congo. So I think in the next year, we should have this kind of renewing the presence, the visibility, and the influence of Congo that is not only affected, but it's known. I think that it would be very important. That's why I put even in all my logos, in all my presentations, Congo really to make it visible beyond the NGO committee. And yes, possibly even coming back a little bit to the previous point, as I say, when there is a will, there is a way. And I got the impression of some of the NGO committees that are not reporting and not having an activity. It's not that they lack of support, it's that they don't really want. They are feeling comfortable doing their own thing. And some of them, I would not name them, but some of them say, well, haven't you reported? Have you been in contact with them? So no. I have my own life. I'm happy with my life. I'm not reporting and things are good. Even if Congo takes me out, I will continue doing my thing because I'm an NGO and I have my activities in the scale that I have, that I can, that I can. So I think this, I have discussed this with Cyril. Some of them I would kick them out not only from Congo, from the ECOSOC status. Uh, To me, some of them are really ashamed that they are participating in meetings, having entrance to United Nations, and having a say in, when we really know that they are not doing so many things. That doesn't really help us, having the ECOSOC status and not really actually deserving it. And even if they don't work, even if they don't do anything, or even worse, if they do any kind of silly things, they keep their ECOSOC status and they are happy. So with Congo or without Congo. So I think we have to prepare ourselves just in the next months, which is will run really rapidly to this new transition. And as have been requested now, if we have clarity from the board, and possibly, I don't know if this would be the subject of extraordinary General Assembly, but if instead of being observers, the three representatives would have a vote, I think that would change the whole thing, because they will be talking about the representing the interest of all NGO committees and having a vote. That would make a difference, because otherwise we can just participate as observers without speaking.
May
No,
I just
thank you.
clarify that? May I clarify there? That proposal was included in the resolution to the General Assembly and was defeated. So that was turned down. So that's not on the agenda.
Ah,
Well, but it's not on the agenda, Cyril, but what Alejandro is saying is that what he's saying that it would make it more appealing and responsive to have a vote, because everybody can be an observer, is the point. The other point that you made, Alejandro, I completely agree. I think the president of Congo needs to be meeting with heads of UN agencies. I've met with the International Telecommunications Union, to your point, the Director General of the WHO. He's going to be leaving next year. There will be a new WHO Director General. But I do think that, meeting with ILO, the International Organization on Migration, other agencies that exist out there, I would like to work alongside of the substantive committee chairs as well, to be able to go and meet with.
Is this the
with
Social
somebody.
Security? Do I check it here?
Wait, I'm sorry, Rebecca, but I think you raised some really important points, Alejandro. And I do think you're right that there are people, I heard, and again, I don't mean to be negative, but I've heard the term Mongo, my own NGO, Mongo. And again, that's the challenge that we're complaining about civil society. I mean, we're complaining about member states doing this, that they're not wanting to work on multilateralism and global cooperation. We have to role model that as well. So I think you raised some really important points, and we need to work on that.
Thank you, Peter.
I'm walking away with some really important feedback. Pamela, I see that you're on, and I'd like to call on you again. Another exemplary NGO committee, and I didn't, we haven't heard from you, and I just like, before, I know we've got about 10 more minutes, but I didn't know if there was anything you would like to add to the discussion today.
Morning, everyone. Peter, thank you. I'm actually multitasking. I have a lot going on today.
Sure.
One comment I would like to make, though, is I agree with Anita Thomas's statement that we really need to look at a strategic plan
Mhm.
for Congo because we can have all of these new initiatives, but if they are not geared to where we're supposed to be, I don't know if there has ever been a discussion with Congo members where we talked about expectations. Why do we belong to Congo? Why do we pay dues? And what do we expect from the organization? And then let's turn it around and say, what does Congo, in simple
Mhm.
terms, not,
Right.
quoting from the bylaws, but what is it Congo is looking for from its members? And I think that that needs to be an initial conversation that we have before we start adding academies and all of these other things. Where do these initiatives fit into the plan that you have for your biennium? So thank you for acknowledging me. And again, I'm really sorry. I have a Women's International Film Festival that runs this week, and I am knee deep in the weeds with that. Thank you.
No, we thank you for that and your comments and your time. And I love this idea of, again, are we listening properly? Are we taking that information in properly to inform a strategic plan? Again, I completely concur, and not to be overly defensive. I just wanted to stand up a couple of initiatives to show that we're listening, that we want to have that interactive communication. But maybe it was the cart before the horse, and I hear you clearly. Anita.
Not to keep speaking up, but I just have a point to share. You were talking about meeting with heads of UN agencies, but Congo's purpose is to facilitate NGO access to the UN. And who decides that as member states, right? And on the top of that sits the Committee on NGOs, comprising, I don't know how many, 20 plus member states. So maybe it is strategic for Congo to meet with those Committee on NGO members, and maybe it can be facilitated by the NGO section, DESA. I guess they have an interim chief in place.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's where it's important, because that's where the challenges are coming during the reporting process, where certain NGOs are being hauled up, certain NGO accreditations are being pulled off. So it might be important for Congo to have that engagement.
Thank you, Anita. We have 10 minutes left, and I before we all hang up, I want to set up a next meeting schedule, and I'd like to look to see if it's possible that we can do this meeting again at the end of September. And
Peter,
maybe
that's when the board is meeting. It would be wiser, I think, to meet at the end of October, and then we can bring to it the results of the board meeting.
okay, does that make sense? I mean, that'll put us 3 months away. I'd rather, what I'm hearing is that we need to be meeting more, but if we don't have anything to, what is the group thing? Should we meet, maybe wait until after the board meets on October 1st and 2nd? Or should we have one more meeting? Jan? Jan? Your hand is up?
Yes, I think we should wait because we to have repeatedly
Right.
meetings. We have so many things to do. Now we live in a different time than before, and that is Zoom meetings that are taking our time to a much larger extent than before. So it's not. We don't have unlimited time resources for
Okay.
this.
Thank you for that. Pamela?
Your suggestion might be to have a small committee meeting of people who are interested in developing a strategic plan for the next 2 years. because yeah.
Good suggestion. Bill?
I would suggest October 9th as the next meeting.
Okay. We'll have an October 9th meeting. Is that a Friday? It's just up to the-
Yes,
Let me just double check my schedule too. That could work for me. I'm gonna, at the same time, we'll look at October 9th at the same time. And and to Pamela's point, I will send out a call for any small team of individuals that would be interested in inputting into a strategic plan. I do have I do believe I have a framework for the Congo strategic plan and would be happy to entertain a group. Yanlong?
Well, Friday afternoons, evenings is not so easy sometimes, but
Oh, okay.
the 9th October is also difficult because it's a particular thing in
A holiday.
calendar.
What about
You know, but it's
I-
difficult to say at this moment.
would it be possible to do I think we have to get sort of a standing day of the week and time. Would everybody prefer a Thursday to a Friday? I mean, because I could do October 8th.
October 8th is the International Day of Older Persons in New York,
Oh, okay.
and we will have a large program. And hopefully you'll be there, Peter.
Yeah, no, I would thank you. I'd like to come. What about I mean, it's not on my calendar right now. What about do we push it to the week after then, to the Thursday after?
Much better.
Peter, I think that you've got some commitments on that Thursday.
Yeah. I do.
The week after?
I could do the 14th. Would a Wednesday be good for everybody? I know that's the middle of the week. Sometimes it gets a little hectic.
That's fine for me. I mean, you're not going to get everyone, so.
Yeah, that's true.
might as well
Okay.
just-
Yeah, Anna in Vienna has her hand up.
Anna?
Hi, thank you. And sorry that I've been silent. I was driving. I listen anyway. I wanted just to say that for those in Vienna, can we still have a meeting on the 30th of September, as you mentioned, the day before the board meeting? Are you still planning to have
Yes.
this possibility to encounter us? I know that we were, because we are still under the assumption that a crime congress is going to be held in Abu Dhabi from 26th of September to the 1st of October, but frankly speaking, nobody is going, none of us, the NGOs, we have already decided not to go. So we are going to be in Vienna, and we look forward to meet you
Yes,
when
Anna,
you're
Anna,
going to be there.
Anna, we have asked Wolfgang Beigelbach to set up that meeting on the 30th.
Perfect. So we
Yes.
will coordinate with Wolfgang. Very good.
Yes, he's in process of setting it up.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cyril. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. No, appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you in person. So we are going to have we'll send out a notification for Wednesday, October 14th at the same time. And we will have that next meeting. And I'll also send out a notice for anyone that would like to participate in the establishment of a strategic plan. And I promise you, I know everybody is so busy, really appreciate everyone's time, your learning this job, and I hope that, we are going to be responsive to you and your needs and really shore up things. Congo has a tremendous history, and everyone that I speak to, both within, the people that are familiar with Congo really think the world of the work that has been done. And this is a really important time now. So thank you. Thank you everyone for your time, and looking forward to connecting again.
Thank you, Peter. Bye. everybody.
Bye.